Hey, how's it going? Hakzpro here. So, real quick, I just wanted to explain a deck I use in Marvel Snap. I've been using it for the past 3 seasons, and I've only been playing the game for like 3.5 months, so I've only been playing up to 4 seasons total. But I've been using this deck in the last 3 seasons, and I have hit Infinite with it the last 3 seasons. Just to show off what seasons they are, just for historical sake. It's the mixtape season that we're in now, the X-Men season, and the Cat season. I started in the King the Conqueror season. I'm going to keep probably using this deck in the future, just because this deck's really good, and I've really been enjoying it. But this deck that I am showcasing today is built almost entirely around Ultron. This one card has won me so many games and so many cubes that I have just hit Infinite all the time. Recently, I shared the deck that I'm going to share with you to a friend IRL, and legitimately, he went from being like stuck in the 60s to 70s to hitting Infinite, because this deck is stupid, dumb, and works a little bit better than a lot of people would think. So, just to tell you a little bit of how I started playing Ultron as like the main goal of a deck, I saw this variant in the shop, like super early on in playing the game. I saw this guy, I looked at him, I said, wow, this art looks sick. And I went, I'm gonna pick this up. It's one of the first things I bought with my gold. I'm gonna pick this up, and I'm gonna build a deck around him. I hadn't looked up anything about how to deck build or what the meta was or anything like that. I just looked at what I had, I looked at Ultron, and I went, I'm gonna make this work even if it sucks. And it did not suck. It was incredible. Up until that point, I was playing Destroy and Discard, and I was hard stuck in 50 to 70. I just could not get past this range. Ultron, immediately that season I hit Infinite, like very quickly. It takes a little bit to get used to playing the deck, but it has a ton of upside and it's really good. So, this is the Ultron deck. There are a number of cards in here that are doing different things, but all of them serve the same purpose: to make Ultron and the drones he makes really strong. Ultron, on reveal, creates 4/1/1 drones at each other location. These are 1 cost, 1 power drones. They have no abilities, so there's naturally a lot of cards that you can get that aren't even hard to get in this game that can boost these drones to decent numbers. And Ultron himself is a 6/8, so he's a pretty decent body as an end boss. If you have this in your hand, this is your last turn play 90% of the time. Sometimes you do other things, but almost always, not Nebula, almost always you're using Ultron. Ultron is the big bad of the deck. This is your end goal. Make Ultron and his stupid drones as powerful as possible, and make the board state he's in as favorable to him as possible. To that end, we have 3 types of cards. We have boosters, which will boost the drones and Ultron himself. We have boost targets, which are just really good to hit with the boosts. And we have some generic good stuff. So, real quick, starting with the boosters. Yes, we're running Patriot. We do not have to run Patriot for this deck to quote-unquote work. However, this is the best variant of the deck I can imagine. I had Patriot just at the time on me. I went, oh, this seems like it'd be useful. All the drones are no ability drones. So I threw it in the deck. Didn't know it was like the meta card, but it's pretty good. Patriot, I suggest it. It's a good card. You do not need Patriot to win. In fact, there are instances where I'll just have the other boosters in hand, and that's just the way I win, is by boosting with everything else. But Patriot does provide your drones a pretty big boost, and it does synergize with other parts of the deck as well. You don't have to have this, and if you're wanting to build just pure Patriot, go for it. I will say that if Patriot gets destroyed, or you just don't draw it, the deck is not as crippled as an actual Patriot deck would be. It's not nearly as reliant on just this card. For our other boosters, Patriot, if your cards have no abilities, they get +2 power. So all the Ultron drones will become 3s. Kazar is another booster that we're using. He's a 4/4, and ongoing, your 1-cost cards have +1 power. We're running a few different 1-cost cards in the deck, and all the drones, again, are 1 costs. So all the drones will gain 1 power. So a board full of them, where you play Ultron, and it fills up an empty board with 4 drones. Instead of that just being 4 power, it's now 8. Doubles their power. It's pretty good. Kazar also benefits other cards in the deck, especially since we're running stuff like Nebula, which I'll explain the purpose of in a minute. So yeah, Kazar is pretty good. Blue Marvel is the card you get from the Starter Battle Pass, and I was told was terrible. Turns out, broken. So, I guess not broken, but he's really good. He's a 5/3 with the ongoing, your other cards have +1 power. This is all your other cards, so everything you place has +1 power. This deck will routinely fill up every single slot on your board, meaning you're going to put out a ton of extra power with this guy. What's that? 8, 9, 10, 11? 11 extra power just from placing Blue Marvel on the field. That's really good. And again, it boosts the drones. A full board of boosters, Patriot, Blue Marvel, Kazar, and Ultron, will provide a bonus 2, 3, 4, 5. So all these drones will be 5 power each, making, if you put all these guys in one location, just kind of like stack them on top of each other, and then played Ultron, you would have 20 power at the other locations. This alone is pretty good. This provides a pretty even balance of power, because that zone you're filling up with just your boosters and Ultron is also pretty strong. And typically, if we're looking at priority, 3, 4, 5, 6 makes for a pretty nice linear chain, to where once you hit turn 3, these are your priority targets. But you can't get that perfect hand every time. So what else are we playing? For one, we're playing Nebula. This is, for each turn your opponent doesn't play a card here, +2 power. It kind of forces your opponent to play into the zone that Nebula is placed into a little bit more, and makes them kind of warp how they have to play the game. I like it, but this is technically the generic good one spot. Before it was filled with Sunspot, and before that, it was filled with Ant-Man. Like, it's just the spot you put whenever you have a 1 cost that's just like, oh, this is decent. Sunspot doesn't get that much use, but he's a 1 cost that occasionally will go up to 2 power at the end of each turn, gain 1 power for each unspent energy. You don't have a lot of that in this deck, but again, a 1 cost that's decent. And then Ant-Man will benefit from the drones swarming him if you have 3 other cards in this location, +3 power. With Kazan and Blue Marvel, this can go to 6 power without too much difficulty. Again though, this is just kind of the generic good spot. If you want to put any other one in there, you are free to do so. I don't know, something like an Iceman or something if you want to mess with the opponent more. Whatever you want to do, you can put it there. Squirrel Girl is backup plan A if you do not pull Ultron. Squirrel Girl adds 1 power squirrels to each other location. These are 1/1s with no abilities. This is very similar to Ultron in its ability, except for it doesn't fill up every zone. However, that is fine. Squirrel Girl is enough sometimes to just distribute stuff to fill up zones, and it can benefit your style greatly if you just don't get your end boss. It's not the best first turn play. You're going to typically hold on to this as a backup plan, or you'll never use it, but it's good to have in the deck. Misty Knight, a 1/2, no ability. This is actually just a Patriot target. It's essentially just a slightly bigger drone. You could replace this, but I found that having a little bit extra power on a drone is sometimes really useful. Additionally, throwing out these 3 will bait out early game Killmongers. Killmonger is on reveal, destroy all 1-cost cards on the field. If that happens turn 6 and the opponent's going second, you instantly lose the game. So, having something like Misty Knight show up and then Nebula show up will encourage the opponent to try to wipe the field faster. So, overall, not bad. It's a good little bait tool. As far as 1-costs are concerned, we're actually going to skip a little bit to Debris. Debris, on reveal, has a rock to each other location for both players. Rocks are 1/0s. Guess what? They don't have abilities, so they synergize with all our other boosters as well, and Debris has the bonus of being able to counteract, what is it, Galactus? I think it's Galactus that wipes the board if there's nothing in your zone. So, this is a good way to counteract one of your biggest weaknesses, which is being locked into just one location. And it gives you little guys that you can still use to boost your stuff. So, Debris doesn't hurt you, it mostly hurts the opponent. Additionally, Debris is a new addition I've put into the deck. The old addition, if I can find him real quick, was Captain America, which your other cards at this location have +1 power, it just makes your drones even bigger. Captain America is also fine to play in this slot as well. And if you need to, any other 3 also works, but I have found that Cap and Debris work the best. So, moving on from the 1-cost cards that all our boosters are really targeted towards, we have some generically good cards that we're using as well. Luke Cage, ongoing, your cards can't have their power reduced. This is useful on the grounds that there are some locations in the game, and with High Evolutionary in the game, some decks, that like to reduce your power a lot, this just stops that from happening. It helps to fix one of the biggest weaknesses of the deck, which is those locations that just say -3 power at this location, and it's useful. It's not a high priority target or anything, but it's a good card to have, especially if the need comes up for it. Additionally, we have armor, ongoing. Cards at this location can't be destroyed. This either will protect your Ultron location, like the place you fill with drones, or it'll protect a higher value target, such as a Nebula or a Misty Knight, to prevent them from being destroyed by Killmonger or Elektra or anything like that. This also prevents locations from destroying cards too, which is a big plus. We also have Scarlet Witch, which replaces the location on reveal with a new one. This is also very useful. Namely, you're going to be getting rid of stuff like TVA, which just cuts the game off too early from you being able to do anything. I'm going to let you know right now, because your combo starts really turn 3 and ends turn 6 and you need to reach turn 6, TVA will 100% ruin the deck. This deck builds boards that look super weak until turn 6. Like, there's almost nothing on the board until turn 6 if you're doing it right. So, having Scarlet Witch here to make sure the game gets far enough to actually win is important, because you do not win the early game with this. Also, we have Red Skull. Because he's Red Skull. He's a 5/12. He's bigger than Ultron. If you metagame it, he's technically like a 5/7, and he gives your opponent power too. But this is just really good. He saved me from some games. He's a really big body sometimes, and I don't know, he's good. I just really like Red Skull. I think he's neat. Technically, if you want to lean more into the Patriot side of things, you can put Abomination in the deck. But I think the ability of, like, Leech punishing is important. If your abilities get negated in hand, or if there's a zone that just disables ongoing abilities, having something like Red Skull is a really good way to exploit that. So, you could go either way on this one. I really don't feel strongly about it. So yeah, this is the deck and the little recipe for it. I really like it. This deck is pretty solid. It does a couple things. It keeps distributing cards. It can play through a Killmonger, which would wipe all the cards that it uses normally. And overall, it's pretty good. I like it. So real quick, before we go into an example game, I want to talk about some locations. So one of the biggest things that the Ultron deck does is it exploits a lot of bad locations for other decks and makes it into key win conditions. So as mentioned before, TVA, worst thing to have at turn 4, the game ends. Get rid of it. This is most well done with your Scarlet Witch. However, if you can't get rid of it, you might as well surrender, because you will not build up enough power to get it high enough. Oh, in case you're curious, the reason we're not running Storm or Rhino in this is because on turn 3, you need to play Patriot if you can, or you need to play Debris. Scarlet Witch is a 2, which just so happens to be a spot in the deck that we don't have a 100% you need to play it if you have it card for. So Scarlet Witch is very flexible mana-wise, or energy-wise. Patriot's a 3, you have to play Patriot, or you have to play Debris. It's almost non-negotiable for these two. So putting in Rhino in there would just mess with the consistency of the deck. So that's why we're running Scarlet Witch, the 2, instead of Rhino, the 3/3, or Storm, the 3/2. These guys are just too high cost here. So, yeah. Again, TVA, terrible location. Hate it. It ruins games. The negative zone is an example of something that we use Luke Cage for. It's just to prevent this power of -3. I believe that negative zone is probably the most detrimental thing for the deck, aside from... Oh, aside from what? No, I think negative zone might be just the most detrimental thing for the deck. It's terrible. It really messes things up. Sanctum Sanctorum was actually a very strong point for this deck. Cards can't be played here is fine, because when you play Ultron, it doesn't play the cards, it just kind of summons them or something. I don't know, it adds them to the other locations, I believe. So when you play Ultron, all your drones still fill up Sanctum Sanctorum and other card locations with locks in them. So you can exploit Sanctum Sanctorum. Other cards can be laid here, which means your opponent's probably not playing much there, but Ultron's going to fill up that zone, and that's a free win. Same thing with Altar of Death. After you play a card here, destroy it to get 2+ energy next turn. You can go 2 ways with this one. You can either put down armor, just to prevent your opponent from gaining advantage from it, or you can treat it like a Sanctum Sanctorum, and simply just ignore the location entirely and consider it a win, which very often it will be. Death's Domain, after you play a card here, destroy it. Same thing. Just your opponent can't really play cards here, so you should be fine too. Scarlet Witch will also fix any of these locations if you don't like them into something else, but you always risk accidentally turning a location into the TVA, so it's always a little bit of a trade-off. I'll tell you that I have definitely lost some games that looked good on my end because I Scarlet Witch something like this where I could have probably won it, but I wanted to use the zone, and it TVA'd me, and I lost because it was turn 4. Like, it's been terrible sometimes, so be careful whenever you just TVA locations when you don't need to. Whenever you Scarlet Witch locations you don't need to. But Death's Domain, this is almost a free win. Flooded, this is a storm condition, because, like, storm causes this to happen. You are, again, placing cards, like, summoning them or something. I don't know. You're not playing them, though. So Ultron can still put things into flooded zones and still have all the boosts applied to that. So you can get around flooded pretty easily, which means that storm isn't as big of a threat to you. Kylin, again, the lock doesn't apply after turn 4 if you play Ultron, or Squirrel Girl, or Debris. All their stuff still goes into these zones, so it's fine. Luke's Bar, after you play a card here, return it to your hand. This will almost always bounce your cards. You don't have a lot of on reveals that you're trying to bounce your own cards to, like, reactivate, but Ultron fills the zone, free win. Milano, free to win, turn 5 only, kind of rough, but yeah. Miniaturized Lab, so this one does say no cards can be added here. This does include anything that's actually thrown into the other zones. So if you play Debris on turn 3, you will not add anything to Miniaturized Lab. If you play Squirrel Girl, you will not add anything. If you have the ability to play Ultron early, the drones will not go into the lab. No cards can be added here is a very harsh restriction. So, Professor X also has a very similar restriction, and that also will sometimes counteract your ability to win the game. But yeah, just make sure you're paying attention to what turn it is for Mini Lab, and you should be fine. But yeah, you're also locked out of this with Ultron as well. There's no deck that fixes this. Morag, can't play your first card here of return. Again, Ultron drones are played for free. Plunder Castle, only 6 cost. You can either play Ultron here, or you can also just throw all your drones there, and it's fine again. Sandbar, cards with abilities can't be played here. This does give your Misty Knight a target to go into. You can just play Misty Knight there, and suddenly your opponent might just surrender out of, like, sheer shock that you're playing something that can actually go there. Otherwise, Ultron drones get placed for free. Onslaught Citadel, this is a good spot to put your boosters. Ongoing effects here are double. All your booster cards are ongoing, so this is a good benefit for that. Nidavellir? Oh, I pronounced that wrong, and I'm not trying again. Cards here, +5 power. Play your Ultron card somewhere, you boost this by 5. The zone that, I don't think I have it in the list, but the zone that also benefits from, like, oh, whoever has the most cards here has 100+ power. Ultron's also able to exploit that pretty well, just because it's able to fill up zones so quickly, so easily. Again, your end board is typically 16 full zones. I mean, 12 full zones. But, like, your opponent can also fill up zones too. Combo decks are still very prevalent, and not as many people are playing Sandman as you would think. So, this keeps coming up. There's a bunch of cards in the game that are, like, meta, in quotation marks, that, like, this deck doesn't have to care about. Sandman, you can play around Sandman pretty easily. 3, 4, 5, and 6, all those turns have one card you're playing each turn. So, if you hit with Sandman turn 5, or turn 4 even, you're still just playing Blue Marvel and then Ultron, and you're fine. It's really not that important. So, Washington, D.C. is a free win. Cards with the no abilities here, +3 power. This makes all your drones massive, and nobody's catching up with you. Washington, D.C. is a free win. It's beautiful. This is probably the best location you can find. Central Park. So these are the locations that add cards to the field. You'll notice that these are squirrels. Squirrel Girl also is in our deck. Like, the squirrels are fine. They are instantly material that we can boost with our booster cards. These are great locations. It's very good. Monster Island. This thing has no ability. While it's a 6/9, you can boost it with Patriot, and you can boost it with Blue Marvel. Great location. Big monster, perfectly fine. Salvage Land. Add 2 raptors to each side of this location. Also perfectly fine. There's another location which adds a -2 ninja to both players' sides. You can boost that to the point where it's essentially a +2 card, while your opponent still has to deal with the -2. And very often that card is so annoying to your opponent that it'll bait out an early Killmonger, like almost every time. So that's also a great location. I just didn't have it on the list here. Alright, showing off some games with the deck real quick. We have No Hope. So there's a number of things we're kind of looking for. When we have hands like this, we have access to all 3 of our boosters, which means we know what turn 3, 4, and 5 will look like for our deck. However, we currently do not have Carnage, so they're playing Destroy. We do not have full combo or anything like that. So while I don't know if we'll get our good old boy, I do know that we will not be able to play 2-cost until the end of the game, and even then probably not. So what we're looking for here is we're looking for Debris, we're looking for Ultron, of course, and we're looking for Ant Girl, or Squirrel Girl. If we get to any of those, we'll snap, because that's essentially a free win. However, while we have the rest of our win condition here, we do not have any distributors yet, so that's going to be a bit of an issue. I can destroy things, I really don't mind. And that's Ultron. So we'll snap. Again, this deck will build up very weak-looking boards. We have a Patriot over here. We have a Scarlet Witch, and we have a Kazar being placed. This doesn't look impressive. Mr. Negative. I never see Mr. Negative decks do anything cool. I don't know, they always seem to disappoint me. I guess I just haven't seen them do much, is the better way to put it. I wonder what this deck will do. But yeah, we're building up a traditional board of just stacking everything in one zone and just letting that happen. Limbo... Limbo allows us to have essentially an extra turn to do some setup. So I'm gonna place a single thing of armor. Probably should have put it there. But I believe that when Limbo is placed, you wait to play your Ultron. I believe that Ultron is powerful enough to where you should probably not use it until the game is over. And to that end, I don't think that playing it under Limbo, like turn 6, is a good idea. If its power is reduced also, like for some reason it's a 5 power because of a location like that, I still believe in holding on to it until it's turn 6. Always wait till the final turn with Ultron. Because this board is a 10-4-4 right now, but it's about to switch pretty hard. And if the opponent doesn't have some way to counteract it, I'm pretty sure they just lose anyways, actually. But they'll lose. Also, if you ever encounter an issue with people constantly retreating from you, snap super early. I snapped earlier in the game. We are already in a 2 game. It's going to final on a 4. But the opponent probably isn't paying attention to that because the snap sound hasn't happened for like 2 minutes. So I'm able to just kind of get away with it. That's annoying. That also is annoying, but it's fine because he was going first. Ultron into a board switch. Now, we're still going to lose the Baxter building because I don't think our drones are going to get that big. But with all 3 of our boosters, our drones are 5 power, and we're able to make boards with 19 power just because we also placed cards that weren't drones. And we won the match. And we got a full 4 out of it. This deck's weak, but if you snap early enough, your opponent won't retreat, making you climb a lot higher. Additionally, I'm used to climbing with the 10 required to actually go up in rank, not 7. So I think you could climb even faster with a deck like this nowadays. So let's see. We have Kazar, Red Skull, and Debris. After you play a card here, destroy it. We're going to play Misty Knight just on the neutral space for now. Death Domain should be free win zone, unless the opponent has some way to counteract it. Mur Island, great thing there. That is close to full combo, but I kind of want to see a different booster than just Kazar here. Yeah, especially since I'm going to be sitting on, like, Mur Island to boost my things for a minute. Let me see. Luke Cage, that's not a big enough boost, but we'll play Debris for now. That'll make Death's Domain have a stupid rock in it. It'll put a stupid rock over there too, which means they can't Galactus. And we should be fine. That's a Storm. That's also okay. Again, we can Ultron in there if we need to. So... that is actually a little annoying though. Kazar! We'll put Kazar in there for now. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit annoying, because we can't play cards there either without them just blowing up. This should be okay in theory. That's annoying. Actually, no, that's fine. It gives us an excuse to use Luke Cage, because High Evolutionary is a deck, and we just have to deal with it sometimes. So, there we go. And I'll put Nebula over there too. There is a good chance that... no, there's a good chance that's going to be like bigger than a drone we place that gets bigger. So, Luke Cage has counteracted the High Evolutionary effects. And Professor X. So that's the end of the game. That's the end of the game. Well, now I have to build up more power. No, I think I just lose. Yeah. Professor X is probably one of the biggest things you can do to stop this deck dead in its tracks. This locks his own out from drones. This locks his own out from placing big cards. It locks his own out of a lot of things. You can still booster around Professor X to kind of get advantage. But with the board setup we had, it just was not going to be enough. Alright, now we're in this next one. We have Patriot and Debris and Blue Marvel. I believe that might be enough to just snap away. This looks like it's either a combo deck or just literally anyone's deck. We're going to say it's a combo deck though, and we're going to snap. We have a 3, we have a 4 if we don't get another 4 combo piece, and we have a 5. I guess we can switch out Hellfire Club. No, we're going to play Luke Cage, because I don't trust this opponent. So we'll Luke Cage real quick, just to secure our own cards. Nebula in the corner, that's fine. If someone's playing Nebula and other ones, there's a very low chance they're actually going to be playing destroy cards, like Killmonger. So we should be safe to just kind of do our thing without the need of armor or anything like that. We're going to put Patriot here, and we're going to hide what our deck is doing until the end of the game. Because I think that'd be funny. So, we're going to do that. Do we get any other piece of the combo? We have armor. We'll put Debris over here. We'll let Nebula get a little bit bigger. It's fine. We'll put Debris over here just so we can fill up everything in case they try to Ultron. Or not Ultron. Galactus. Very spooked by Galactus at all points in like the game, because Galactus is such a like impossible thing to get around with this deck. Just because you don't concentrate that much power in one zone. Let's see here, Nebula. I believe we just put Blue Marvel here and pass. So, unfortunate thing that'll happen. Our zones are still incredibly weak looking, so the opponent might not have much. If we didn't pull Ultron, we'd be trying to like manage with this. So it'd probably be Red Skull and Nebula, or like Scarlet Witch, Armor, and Nebula. However, we pulled Ultron, so that's the entire combo. And the opponent reveals first a Luke Cage, because a lot of people are playing that right now. Kitty Pryde. I don't think we beat that in the hub zone. However, we should be beating Hellfire Club. Potentially Dark Dimension 2, but I don't think so. And Ultron. So the drones all go out. Oh, we are beating Dark Dimension as well. Very cool. Very cool. We made 15 zone, and a 17 zone. This is kind of how the deck runs a lot of the time. It exploits the fact that most decks cannot build for 3 zones all at once. Very often. You will very much so see massive power put into one zone, some power put into another, and like nothing put into a third zone. And Ultron's able to exploit that by just making a good amount of power in every zone. Also, nobody expects you to be holding Ultron. Nobody's expecting it. Nobody sees this guy coming, and playing him typically just ruins a lot of people's plans. So, it's fun. Let me see here. This is a very similar deck? I don't think similar is the right word for it. This is a good old Thanos deck. L10, I need you to go away. I like my hand currently. I'm going to snap and keep my hand. Thank you very much. But yeah, this is another location where it's just like, it either benefits you because you don't have Ultron in hand, or it hurts you because you have Ultron in hand, and so getting rid of it's important. Scarlet Witch, you need some form of land removal, and I think every deck in the game at this point. He also did not like that zone. But I feel like you kind of need some form of location rewiring in every zone you go into. It is just too big of an issue not to have something, you know? So, at least something like Scarlet Witch is useful. If you don't want to use Scarlet Witch in your deck, even if you don't play this strategy, you still need a Storm or a Rhino or something. Because there's going to be a location that messes with you to a significant degree. I'm putting debris over here. I could put it over here, but then they gain another card, which I don't want them to have another one. These are all like 1 powers that have Nidavellir bonuses to them. But more than likely what we're going to see is we're going to see Kazar placed down here on the opponent's side of the field, which is fine. We'll just play Blue Marvel and Ultron at some point. But, oh, interesting. We'll put this down over here, because we didn't draw any of the necessary combo pieces to justify doing more than that. Nah, we don't need it. I think what we're going to do in this one... Darkhawk. Ugh. Oh, there's Kazar. You're a little bit late. So out of the 3 boosters, there's a little bit of a priority system set in place. You need to place, if you have it in your hand, Patriot or Blue Marvel, depending on the board state you've got, and then Kazar. But Patriot and Blue Marvel always take priority over him, just because he boosts less cards than the average does. That's massive, but we should be okay. Let's put Ultron here. This should make this big enough for us. Thanos is a 10. Let's see if that was enough. Might not have been. No, it was. That boost from there was enough to get the other zones over. Yeah. And we snapped early on, so our opponent didn't ever feel like retreating, which made our otherwise 2 into a 4, which helps us to climb just a little bit faster. So yeah, that's just a few example games for you. I will continue playing this deck. I'll modify it as, like, I need to make adjustments to it. Like, if Luke Cage is no longer necessary, I can swap him out with something. But I'm thinking that this might kind of be just the deck for a while for me. I will more than likely be playing again, and I hope to hit Infinite with this deck again next season. But yeah, it's a good deck. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile for it, and I hope that you also can get to Infinite with this, because, dear goodness, I know that's a struggle. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos about card games. I do Yu-Gi-Oh! As well as Snap. I'll probably start talking about other Snap decks as well, just not right now. None of these other decks have anything on Ultron currently. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.